What's the deal with Disney locking out DeSantis Oversight Committee? Link. I keep reading Disney did some wild legal stuff to effectively cripple the committee DeSantis put in charge of Disney World. But every time I go to read one of the articles I get hit by, not available in your region. I'm EU. Something about the clause referring to the last descendant of King Charles. It just sounds super bizarre and I'm dying to know what's going on, but I'm not a lawyer. I'm not even sure what sort of retaliation DeSantis hit Disney with, though I do know it was spurred by DeSantis' Don't Say Gay bills and other similar stances. Can I get a rundown of this? Edit. Well, hot damn, thanks everyone. I'm just home from work, so I've only had a second to skim the answers, but I'm getting the impression that it's layers of legal loopholes amounting to DeSantis fucking around and finding out. And now the actual legal part is making sense to me too, so cheers. Y'all are heroes. Answer. I'm going to divide this into a few smaller questions since it's an unusual situation. Why does Disney have such a strange relationship with local government in the first place? Back in the 1960s, Disney bought up the land they planned on using to construct Disney World. The land was in a location that was relatively undeveloped, so a lot of work would need to be done before the park would be up and running. Disney had a ton of money available to invest in this project, which it wanted to complete as soon as possible. Florida's state and local governments wanted the tax revenue from Disney World to start coming in, but expanding infrastructure into previously uninhabited swampland wasn't exactly their top priority. Disney ended up making a deal with the state. Basically, the land around Disney World was classified as the Reedy Creek Improvement District. In this district, Disney had an unusually large amount of control over the local government, but they also had an unusually large tax burden to pay for all the projects being done in the area. This arrangement continued even after Disney World opened. What does DeSantis have to do with this? While it's not official yet, it's common knowledge that Florida Governor Ron DeSantis is planning on running for president in 2024. Likely as part of a strategy to draw national attention to himself, he supported a variety of policies to demonstrate that Florida is where woke goes to die. This includes multiple laws about schools, including the Florida Parental Rights in Education Act, aka the Don't Say Gay law. Supporters of this law say it's necessary to prohibit unnecessarily sexualized content being shown to kids and prevent sexual abuse. Opponents say it will contribute to bullying and discrimination against LGBT students. Disney had previously donated to multiple legislators who support DeSantis policies and originally avoided taking a stance on these sorts of political issues. However, after a large outcry from employees of Disney and its subsidiaries, Disney leadership denounced the legislation and said it would stop giving money to Florida politicians. DeSantis and some of his allies immediately responded by condemning Disney's stance and threatening to retaliate by removing Disney's special powers in the Reedy Creek Improvement District. What's going on now? Florida ended up passing a law that gave the governor the authority to appoint the leaders of the Reedy Creek Improvement District and banned current or recent Disney employees from serving in such a position. All 5 people appointed by Governor DeSantis are people who have donated lots of money to DeSantis and/or are very active in right-wing groups. This suggests that the new district leaders are probably hoping to penalize Disney for taking its recent LGBT stance, and it's in Disney's interest to oppose them. Presumably they would make Disney go through a lot more red tape to make changes on their land or even refuse to let Disney make some desired changes. As it turns out, on February 8, the day before Florida passed the bill to put DeSantis' allies in charge of the district's Board of Supervisors passed a poison pill rule. This rule agreed to give most of the district's authority directly to the Disney company. Consequently, even though DeSantis' allies are officially taking over the local government, Disney still keeps almost all of the powers it had in the first place. In other words, Disney found a sneaky trick to effectively avoid DeSantis' retribution. It should be noted that some people have contended that this rule change can be challenged in court, but I don't know enough about contract law to know who's likely to win. What does King Charles have to do with this? There are some legal limitations on perpetuities, contracts without an end date. Consequently, the poison pill says that if part of the rule is unenforceable because of a prohibition on perpetuities, the end date of that part shall be 21 years after the death of the last survivor of the descendants of King Charles III, King of England living as of the date of this declaration. It's basically an FU to Florida's leaders, which could extend the length of the committee's rule in place for a long time. Here's an article explaining the specific language in more detail. TLDR. Disney has a weird arrangement with the local government where it gets a lot of power but it pays a lot of money. The state is currently passing a lot of controversial legislation, some of which Disney spoke out against. The state is retaliating by installing a new local government in Disney's area. The old local government stripped itself of its powers in an attempt to screw over the newly appointed local government. Edit. I removed a sentence in the King Charles section. It turns out I misinterpreted the exact meaning due to its use of commas. Answer. Walt Disney World in Orlando, Florida, was initially planned to be one theme park, and Epcot, which at the time, was planned to be a futuristic city where new development, societal experiments would be common. In order to give Disney flexibility to make this happen, the state of Florida essentially gave them their own county. That way Disney could effectively approve their own permits, build their own infrastructure, etc. Part of the deal was that Disney would tax itself. That way, none of the existing counties would have to use their own tax money to build anything that would be exclusively used by Disney. Last year, Disney spoke out against one of DeSantis' laws, which prohibits conversations about sexual orientation in schools. DeSantis didn't like this, so he took away Disney's power to self-govern, essentially telling Disney that they would have to continue paying high taxes, but would have no control over themselves. Disney obviously didn't like this, so just before the law took effect, Disney signed an agreement with the old district which removed all their power, with the exception of road maintenance and maintenance of existing infrastructure. So now DeSantis' board is pissed, because they wanted to use their power over Disney's construction permits to police their TV shows and movies. 28% of Disney's revenue comes from Disney World, so they would have a ton of power to control Disney. The agreement appears to be legally bulletproof, so it's going to take a ton of litigation to get rid of it, which will end up costing Florida taxpayers a metric fuckton. It also buys Disney time, as odds are once the sheet is out, they can lobby to get their power back. Answer. Easier to just quote articles, since it seems like you know how to read but just can't access the info. Disney used to have control. Under the old law passed by the Florida state legislature as Walt Disney prepared to build his theme park in 1967, the Reedy Creek Improvement District's landowners elected the board members. Because Disney owns almost all of the land in the district, it picked all of them. That law gave Disney unique control over development and other services within its boundaries, something usually reserved for cities and counties. 1. But then Florida Governor Ron DeSantis signed a bill to change the arrangement. Government Ron DeSantis signed a law Monday, February 27, 2023, that gives the state control of Disney World's Reedy Creek Improvement District, stripping the resort of its self-governing powers amid a feud with the governor. The law, effective immediately, gives the governor the power to appoint all 5 members of the governing board of the district. Members face Senate confirmation. 1. However, the old board, while still essentially controlled by Disney, signed an agreement to hamstring itself. Ahead of an expected state takeover, on February 8, 2023, the Walt Disney Company quietly pushed through the pact and restrictive covenants that would tie the hands of future board members for decades, according to a legal presentation by the district's lawyers on Wednesday, March 29. 2. According to the board, on the day that the legislation was passed by the Florida House, the former board and Disney entered into a development agreement and deed restrictions that essentially stripped most of the governing authority of the district and also made certain promises and concessions to Disney for many, many years out into the future. Board member Brian Ongst, Jr., said, "They have tried to take that away from this board, the ability to provide that oversight, and we're not going to let that stand. I'm going to read to the term of this restrictive covenant. This declaration shall continue in effect until 21 years after the death of the last survivor of the descendants of King Charles III, King of England, living as of the date of this declaration," board member Ron Perry said. "So, I mean, I don't know what else to say. I think these documents are void ab initio. I think they were an extremely aggressive overreach, and I'm very disappointed that they're here." 3. Sources. 1. Swisher, Schuyler. DeSantis signs law. Stripping Disney World of Reedy Creek control. Orlando Sentinel, 27 February 2023. Link accessed 30 March 2023. 2. Swisher, Schuyler. DeSantis Reedy Creek Board says Disney stripped its power. Orlando Sentinel, 29 March 2023. Link accessed 30 March 2023. 3 Cardona, Carolina. Brandon Hogan. Disney made last-minute deal with former Reedy Creek board giving company wide powers, new board says. ClickOrlando.com/news 6/29 March 2023. Link accessed 30 March 2023. LMAO. So basically Disney, and by extension its members of this board, knew they were going to be taken over by DeSantis, and said okay, we all agree that this board will forever have absolutely no power over anything anymore. So DeSantis can fill the board and they'll have absolutely no power. It's like burning the crops behind you as you retreat, knowing you have more than enough food to feed your people forever, but fuck over the barbarians trying to move in.